Heya, heya, see below. Heya, heya, storm wind blow.
Chapter 17. Selukar raised. Beauty was not enough. Tavaro learned this while being struck in the mouth by a city. The seafloor rose, and with it came redstone, black ridge, green fire, oathglass, old hunger, broken wardens, and more water than any sensible place should have kept on hand for its birth. The new land shoved upward beneath him. Waves hit one another and climbed into white walls. Stone thundered. Channels split open before they had names. Harbours yawned in the sides of the mass, as if the city had remembered ships before any mortal had carved a dock. Tavaro floated in the middle of it with the skybone line wrapped around both hands. This had been unwise. That was becoming a theme. The line ran from his torn wrist into the heart of the rising mass. The anchor remained buried somewhere below the central height, and every foot of stone that shouldered free of the sea pulled at his arm as if Selukar had mistaken him for a useful hinge. His wrist seam had opened nearly to the forearm. Sonara would have said many things about that. Most of them would have been short. Blood ran from him into the foam. Green fire threaded the line. Amber dust clung to the cord where the Deepwardens had broken and been driven into the city's bones. The oathglass flashing beneath the forming streets caught sun, caught green, caught amber, caught words. His words. This is violation. Pyranth's answer. We bind what did not consent, because we believe mortal future justifies it. The city had taken both before it had fully entered air. That is inconvenient, Tavaro rasped. The sea punched him in the mouth. Fair. He spat salt and clung harder to the line. His ribs tried to fold around pain. His left calf bled, where Vadruk's mouthplate had cut him. The second dose of Sonara's standing medicine was gone now, fully gone, and had left behind hollow muscles, a sour mouth, and the unmistakable sense that tomorrow had arrived early and was personally offended. A red cliff burst from the water beside him. Tavaro kicked away. His body made a counter-proposal involving drowning. The skybone line jerked him against the cliff instead. His shoulder hit stone. His ribs screamed. A crack opened beside his face and spat clear water into his ear. "Your city has manners," he called. Pyranth stood on the water below him, not floating, standing. The god's feet touched the sea, as if it were polished stone. His cloak hung torn around him. One side ripped where a Deepwarden had bitten through his green fire. The wound at his side did not bleed. It shed sparks that vanished before they touched the water. His antlers blazed. Green light ran from their tips into Selukar, threading stone, glass, green vein, and the 7 hidden places where the wardens now held. Pyranth watched the rising city with a stillness that looked like reverence or ownership. Tavaro was learning the difference late. The cliff under his hands shifted. He froze. A shelf formed beneath his knees, not melted, not carved. The stone simply decided it had always meant to be a ledge, and adjusted the world around that decision. Water ran over it in sheets. Tavaro collapsed onto the shelf, breathing hard. The stone was warm. New land pulled from the deep should have been cold. This stone held heat like something that had waited under the sea with a banked fire inside it. Not natural, beautiful, wrong. The shelf widened. A narrow stair formed ahead, climbing toward the interior heights. Oathglass glimmered beneath the first step, clear as ice and smoky as old breath. Tavaro looked down at Pyranth. Did you do that? The city did. That is worse. It is finding its shape. Cities should wait for masons. Mortals will improve it. That is what people say before asking mortals to clean divine mess. Pyranth's hood angled toward him. Yes, Tavaro hated how often the god agreed with the true insult. He pushed himself upright. The moment he put weight on his left leg, the calf wound opened with enthusiasm. Blood ran down his shin, mixed with seawater, and slid into a crack between red stones. The crack glowed green for one pulse. Tavaro stared at it. No, the glow vanished. No drinking me. I am not part of the civic plan. Pyranth's voice came from below. You are already part of it, Uncle Treehead. Yes? That was exactly the wrong answer. The god did not apologize. Tavaro climbed. Each step taught his body a new complaint. The skybone line tugged at his open wrist whenever the city shifted. His ribs ground under the ruined binding. His shoulder ached from the whale fall, Vadruk's claw, the Deepwarden pull, and several decisions no sane healer would have allowed near daylight. The stair rose beneath him. As he went, he disliked that too. A path should not be so eager. A path should contain mud, loose stone, one rude root, perhaps a snake if the road wished to be memorable. This one formed exactly where his foot needed it. Suspicious. By the time he reached the top of the first red rise, the city had lifted fully from the sea. Tavaro stopped. No joke came. Selukar spread beneath and around him wider than any island he had ever raised, wider than several of his islands laid together. It did not sit in the water as a refuge ringed by reef. It thrust outward in long arms of red stone and black ridge, with deep harbour cuts, high wet terraces, and open cliffs facing the sea. No reef gate closed it. No single harbour mouth could be sealed by one hand. Water moved through channels that crossed the land and returned to the sea in silver falls. The central height rose behind him, not one mountain but a cluster of red and black spires around a basin of glass. Green lines ran through the stone beneath every slope. They did not pulse in one rhythm. They moved like thought under skin. Far beneath the central basin, 7 amber lights burned, not bright, not gone. Hell. Tavaro felt them, the way he felt his own marks after fever. Present, silent, not forgiving. The Deepwardens had become foundations. No singer would know how to sing that honestly. Children would one day touch amber set into stone and be told it was a gift, or a pact, or a guardian blessing, or whatever clean word survived long enough to become official. The child Mark ached. I know, Tavaro whispered. Pyranth came up the stair behind him without sound. For a time, neither spoke. Below them, the sea continued to pour off Selukar. A western harbour opened wide and deep, dark water already calming within its cut. The channel leading out could hold ships larger than any Sulari hull. Tavaro saw the future too easily. Stone quays, wet ropes, market stalls, nets, oar songs, children with bare feet running down steps cut into cliffs, women shouting about fish weight, old men cheating at shell counters under black trees. He wanted to love it. That frightened him. Pyranth said, "They will not call this another cage." Tavaro laughed once. It hurt enough to make him bend. Pyranth turned. You doubt it? I doubt anything that starts with you deciding what mortals will call their houses. The green fire in Pyranth's antlers dimmed. Tavaro wiped salt from his beard. His fingers came away red. I raised islands and thought they were homes. Some were also walls. This has no single gate. Good. It will invent other problems. It will also answer some. Yes. Tavaro looked over the harbour. That is how the worst places become proud. Pyranth did not reply. Good. Silence was the first useful thing the god had offered since the sea swallowed Tavaro. Then Tavaro remembered the fleet. The beauty dropped out from under him. Farbound, he said. Pyranth's hood lowered. Tavaro turned. Names? The fleet scattered in the storm. I said names. Pyranth was quiet. Tavaro took one step toward him. The line tore at his wrist, and he nearly went to one knee. He stayed upright through spite, which had become the only reliable medicine in his possession. Senara. Alive. The word entered him so hard he had to look away. His legs nearly went. The stone behind him shifted, forming a support at exactly the right height. He pulled away from it. Stop being helpful. The stone remained. Lapo, Tavaro said. Alive. Relief came again. Sharp and ugly. He had no right to it. He had killed Lapo's father. He had no claim on Lapo's breath. Still, the relief came. Denying it would not make him cleaner. Maru, alive. Riva, alive. With them? With the living. That is not a place. No. Tavaro let that answer stand, because his throat had no room for more. For one moment, the city did not matter. Not the cliffs, not the oathglass, not Pyranth's dream, not the 7 lights under the basin. 4 names lived. Many did not. Both facts occupied the same body and tore space for themselves. How many? Tavaro asked. Pyranth did not answer. Tavaro understood. Too many, yes. Do not make that a number later, unless you have names. Pyranth's antlers flickered. I will gather them, not gather. Learn. The god inclined his hood. Maybe agreement, maybe delay. Tavaro was learning not to trust the difference. Will the survivors come here? He asked. Not all. Not soon. Where? South. The storm road carried them toward mountains. Some ships will find shore there. Some will curse the land for not being what they saw. Some will move inland. Some will turn back if the sea lets them. Some will keep the far-bound name. Some will spit it out. Tavaro looked west. The sea lay empty to his eyes. He imagined Sinara on some torn deck, rootstaff in hand, measuring pulse and weather, while refusing comfort from both. He imagined Lapo counting names with a broken slate, Riva tying someone's bandage too tight and correcting it before Sinara could, Maru shouting at a wave for poor timing. He imagined the guide boat, gone into Vadruk's mouth. He closed his eyes. Pyranth said, "Their children may come." Tavaro opened his eyes. Others will come from the Sulari Isles. Others from shores you have never touched. Selukar cannot belong to one people. Tavaro's hand tightened around the skybone line. Cannot. Pyranth turned his hood toward him. The oathglass under the stone chimed faintly. The sound was small, almost polite. Tavaro looked down. Pyranth did too. The city has ears, Tavaro said. It has memory. Terrible trait. I have one. It is rarely useful at feasts. The oathglass chimed again, softer. Pyranth's antlers flickered. It heard me. Yes, good. Tavaro studied him, though there was no face inside the hood to read. You mean that? Yes, it heard your little ownership pause. It should. That did not fit Tavaro's suspicion as neatly as he wanted. Annoying god. The central basin pulled at him. Not sound, not voice. A tug through the skybone line, deep and steady. The anchor remained lodged in the city's heart. If he did not retrieve it soon, either the line would tear free from his arm, or Selukar would decide he was part of the foundation. He did not want to become civic support before breakfast. Anchor, he said. Pyranth nodded. The heart basin. Heart is a loaded word. Central basin. Better. They climbed. The city grew around them like a thought, learning architecture. Red stone rose in shallow steps. Black ridges made rails where a mortal would have fallen, or at least been offended. Green light ran beneath the surface. Oathglass appeared more often near the top. Small panes under stone, clear veins in walls, beads of smoky crystal forming at the edge of stairs. Tavaro saw a wide court open between 2 spires. Its floor was red stone, crossed by 7 amber inlays that pointed toward the basin. He saw a hall grow along the north edge, open to the sky. Columns black, back wall threaded with glass. He saw channels cut themselves from a high spring down toward the harbors. He saw a lower road tunnel open beneath a ridge, dark and cool, carrying water sounds. Too many grand halls, he said. It needs gathering spaces. It also needs kitchens. It will have kitchens. Latrines? Yes. Storage that does not flood. Of course. Places where people can argue without God's hearing. Pyranth's hood stilled. Tavaro pointed at him. That pause was poor. I was considering. Consider faster. Private rooms. Mortal rooms. No oathglass. Oathglass protects the city. Oathglass can also become a knife. The path hummed beneath Tavaro's feet. Listening, he glared at it. Yes, you too. Pyranth said. Some rooms without it. Many, some many. That is a coward number. It is a first bargain. Tavaro snorted. You bargain, like Sinara, with worse hands. I suspect she would dislike the comparison. She dislikes most things before improving them. The words left him before he meant them to. Senara. The name did not enter the air. It stayed in him and hurt. The child Mark warmed. Tavaro kept climbing. The central height opened into a circular hollow of red stone and black glass. The edges rose in tiers, each cut by channels of green light that flowed downward without water. At the bottom lay the oathglass pool, not liquid, not solid in any simple way. A wide sheet of clear, dark glass filled the basin floor, thick and smooth, with depths that seemed to contain the sea they had lifted from. Beneath it, far down, the old wound pulsed black-red. Around that pulse, 7 amber points burned, evenly spaced, each one shaped like a coiled body seen from above. The Deepwardens, bound into the city wards. Tavaro descended the basin steps. Each amber point turned toward him, not with eyes, worse, with attention. He stopped halfway down. Pyranth stopped behind him. "You feel them," the god said. "Yes. Can you bear it?" "No." Pyranth accepted that. Tavaro hated him a little less for one breath. Then he continued. The skybone anchor stood in the center of the oathglass pool, buried point first, into the glass above the wound. The line ran from it to Tavaro's wrist, pale and blood-streaked. Green fire still traced the cord, though weaker now. Amber threads from the 7 warden points touched the anchor lightly, as if the city had not decided whether to keep it or return it. Tavaro stepped onto the glass. It held. Of course it held. It also showed him Oren. Tavaro froze. The glass beneath his feet darkened. Oren lay on the root-house floor, blood at his mouth, hand open. Lapo held him. Senara knelt beside him. Tavaro stood over them with blood on his hands. The image did not accuse. It only remembered. That was worse. Tavaro tried to step back. The skybone line tightened, keeping him on the glass. Pyranth's voice came softly from the steps. "It remembers what you brought. I did not bring that on purpose. Few people bring their worst wound on purpose." The image shifted. The guide boat vanished in Vadruk's mouth. Then the first Deepwarden closed its eyes as Tavaro said sorry. Then the farbound passed through the reef gate. Then a child sank through blue water, hands above him withdrawing. The child Mark flared. Tavaro dropped to one knee. "No." The image stilled. Pyranth came one step lower. "Tavaro." "No." The word struck the glass. A crack of white light ran outward from Tavaro's knee. It did not break the basin. It crossed the image like a line drawn through wet ink. Oren faded. The guide boat faded. The Deepwarden faded. The child faded. Tavaro breathed hard, palm flat against the glass. "No one uses that," he said. Pyranth did not answer. Tavaro looked up. The god stood on the step above, antlers dimmed almost to black. "No one uses that," Tavaro repeated. "Not you, not priests, not lawkeepers, not some clever child with hungry fingers. The glass can remember. It does not get to show wounds because it wants an audience." The basin hummed. Pyranth said, "Memory keeps law from becoming convenience. Memory without mercy becomes another mouth. That limit may be too broad. It is exactly broad enough. There are crimes that must be shown, yes, to those who need the truth, not to everyone who wants a wound to kneel beside. You ask privacy from a city built on record. I ask because confession is not a quarry." The oathglass under Tavaro's palm warmed. Not green, not amber, something closer to the heat of a body. A faint line formed under his hand. Not script, a mark, the shape of an open palm, rough and mortal, pressed into the glass, as if Senara's broken clay disc had been remembered and enlarged. Tavaro stared. A hand could open. He laughed once, though the sound came close to breaking. "Persistent woman," he whispered. Pyranth's voice softened. "The city listens to you, too. That should concern everyone." "It does? Good. Let that be its first sensible instinct." He crawled the last few feet to the anchor. The curved skybone glowed pale beneath the green and amber threads. Tavaro wrapped both hands around it. The wound below pulsed. For one breath, He felt the old hunger beneath the glass, the deep maw. Not a monster, not a mind in the way Vadruk was a mind. Appetite as pressure. The old fouling of creation that had learned to want through every maw spawn spawned from it. It pressed upward through the wound, met oathglass, green vein, and warden light, and waited. Selukar stood on a hunger that had not died. Tavaro looked at Pyranth. The god watched him. You knew it would stay awake. Yes, you said the wards would hold it. They will. For how long? Pyranth's silence returned. Tavaro almost smiled. That long. For as long as mortals maintain the wards. As long as the Deepwardens remain bound. As long as the green vein carries what it is given without corruption. Tavaro looked around the basin. Oren's image had faded. The open hand, Mark remained faint in the glass. The 7 amber points burned below. The newborn city dripped seawater from every height. Nothing here is clean. No. Good. We should write that above the gate. Which gate? Tavaro gave him a look. Pyranth's hood tilted. Then he said, There will be no single gate. Tavaro nodded. Learning, he pulled the anchor. It did not move, of course. Why would anything obey on a day like this? He pulled harder. Pain opened through the wrist seam, down the forearm, through the shoulder, into the ribs. The anchor resisted with the weight of the whole city beneath it. Green threads clinging to it snapped one by one. Amber threads held longer. The Deepwarden lights pulsed. Not refusal this time. Question. Tavaro closed his eyes. I will not pretend I freed you, he said. The basin quieted. I will not pretend this was mercy. Amber moved under the glass. I will remember the breaking. The oathglass warmed. Pyranth stood motionless on the steps. Tavaro opened his eyes and pulled again. The amber threads released. The anchor came free. The skybone line snapped back into Tavaro's arm. The scream that tore out of him echoed across the basin and down the newborn streets. The line recoiled through the open seam, dragging green fire, amber dust, and blood with it. The anchor slammed into his hand before sliding through the wrist wound and under the skin. Tavaro collapsed on his side, curled around his arm, forehead pressed to the glass. He could not breathe. That seemed excessive, given the recent return of air. Pyranth knelt beside him. Tavaro tried to roll away. His body did not cooperate. The god did not touch him. Good, bad. A warmth spread through Tavaro's right forearm. He forced his eyes open through a blur of pain. The wrist seam remained open, but the bleeding had slowed. Green fire threaded the wound edges, holding them apart and together in a way Sinara would have hated on professional grounds. Around the seam, a new mark burned into his skin. Not simple. 7 thin coils ringed his forearm from wrist to elbow, each amber at the center and black along the edge. They did not sit on the skin. They looked buried under it, as if something long and old slept beneath his flesh. A narrow green line crossed each coil and bound it to the skybone seam. The Warden Mark. Tavaro knew the name before anyone spoke it. He stared at it. No. The coils pulsed once. No. You do not get to make a trophy out of this. The mark did not vanish. The child mark burned beneath his ribs. Not denial, not agreement. Witness? Tavaro hated that, too. Pyranth's voice came quietly. It is not a trophy. What is it? A bond? That word has done poor work today. Yes. Tavaro pushed himself upright with his left hand. The basin tilted, then steadied. Can I call them? Pyranth was silent. Tavaro looked at him. Can I call them? Perhaps one day. The new mark pulsed again, slow and cold. Tavaro felt a shape in it, vast, coiled, patient. Not a full body calling. Not yet. More like a door behind a sealed door. The thought of wearing a Deepwarden form made his stomach twist. No, he said. Then do not. That has not been a reliable method for stopping doors. Then make law before need arrives. Tavaro laughed, weak and bitter. You do enjoy turning my wounds into civic advice. Pyranth's antlers flickered. The god had heard it before Tavaro needed to say it. That was poorly done. Pyranth said. Yes, I meant no harm. I believe you. The silence after that hurt more. Pyranth stood slowly, his torn cloak dragged across the glass, and left no mark. I meant harm today, and called it necessary. Tavaro turned his head. The oathglass chimed. It had heard. I will not forget it, Pyranth said. Tavaro wondered whether that comforted him. It did not. The city settled through the afternoon. Tavaro should have slept. His body made several persuasive arguments for a brief, death-shaped nap. Pyranth offered a shaded hall and green fire, enough to keep Tavaro's organs from filing separate petitions. Tavaro refused both with the wisdom of a man who had recently used none and wished to keep the pattern alive. He walked, limped, leaned, collapsed once, and pretended the street had requested inspection. Pyranth did not comment. That was either tact or fear of being called Uncle Treehead again. They moved through the upper courts first. The central basin opened into a ring of red stone structures that were not buildings yet, not fully. Shells of intention, columns without roofs, roofs without doors, walls with oathglass veins waiting for words, open courts with channels cut for future rain. Everywhere the green vein pulsed beneath the stone, connecting height to harbour, basin to road, memory to foundation. Unnatural, too ready, too empty. A city should begin with people hammering, swearing, mismeasuring, rebuilding after the first storm, and discovering that someone forgot drainage. Selukar had arrived with drainage, already considering philosophy. Tavaro did not trust it. He loved it anyway. That was a problem. At the western harbour, he stopped again. Deep water sat calm inside the stone cut. Green vein threads passed under the quays and vanished into the depths. The harbour floor dropped fast and clean. No reef teeth, no narrow gate. Ships could enter in numbers. Ships could leave in numbers. Ships larger than any in the Sulari Isles could enter here. Tavaro said, Yes, how large? Larger than your pride. Ambitious harbour. Small comparison. Tavaro glared. Pyranth's antlers flickered with amusement. For one heartbeat, Tavaro could almost forget. Then a wave slapped the stone below, and he heard again Vadruk's mouth closing on the guide-boat. He sat down on the harbour edge before his legs made the choice ugly. Pyranth stood beside him. The sun lowered over the water, turning the newborn cliffs redder than blood and warmer than fire. Selukar steamed where sea-water still found hot stone. Birds had not come yet. No insects, no voices, no smoke, no cooking, no footfalls, except Tavaro's and Pyranth's. A city empty of mortals was a strange thing, like a mouth waiting for its first word. Will they be happy here? Tavaro asked. Pyranth did not answer at once. Good. Some? Tavaro nodded. Honest. Some will be hungry. Some will be proud. Some will make law cruel. Some will make it less cruel. Some will say I built this for them. Some will say you did. Some will say the Deepwardens chose it. If anyone lets that lie stand. They did not. No, do not let them say it. Pyranth looked toward the central height. We can found the first record. Records can lie with good posture. Yes, still better than silence. Then we will record that the Deepwardens resisted, and that we broke them. Yes, and that you wanted this before it had people. Pyranth's hood angled. Is that accusation? Warning. It is also true. The oathglass in the harbour stone chimed. Tavaro closed his eyes. This place is going to be unbearable. It will remember. That is not the same as honesty. No. You are learning dangerous distinctions. I have had help. Do not flatter me. I am weak from civic support. Pyranth lowered himself to sit beside him. The gesture startled Tavaro. Gods did not often sit, unless enthroned, feasting, or pretending to be less dangerous. Pyranth sat with the stiffness of a wounded body, and the care of someone entering another man's quiet without permission, and trying, late, to reduce the offence. For a long time, they watched the empty harbour. Then Tavaro said, First record. Pyranth lifted his hood. Tavaro did not look at him. Say it plainly. The stone between them warmed. Oathglass. Listening again. Pyranth placed one hand on the harbour stone. Tavaro placed his left beside it, not touching. Close enough, the Warden Mark pulsed cold around his right forearm. The child Mark warmed beneath his ruined ribs. The skybone line lay back under torn flesh, exhausted and angry. Every mark on him had an opinion. The city waited. Pyranth spoke first. Selukar rose from the sea by green vein, oathglass, skybone line, and 7 Deepwardens bound into ward. The harbour stone hummed. Tavaro said, "No." Pyranth turned toward him. "That sounds like a construction list. It is accurate. It is tidy." Pyranth's antlers dimmed. Tavaro looked down at his bleeding hand. "Start with the wound." The city waited. Pyranth's voice lowered. "Selukar stands over an old sea wound. The stone accepted it." Tavaro said, "The Deepwardens held that wound closed before we came." The amber beneath the city pulsed. Pyranth said, "They resisted us." The amber pulsed again. Tavaro's mouth went dry. He said, "We broke them." The harbour stone went warm under his palm, not forgiving. Recording? Pyranth said, "We bound them into the city wards." Tavaro said, "They did not consent." The oath glass flashed once. Pyranth drew in a breath he did not need. Tavaro watched him. "Say your part." The god sat very still. Then Pyranth said, "I believed mortal life justified the breaking." The green vein under the harbour answered, a thin pulse running toward the central height. Tavaro waited. Pyranth's antlers dimmed further. "I loved the city before any mortal asked for it." The oath glass chimed. Tavaro said, "I helped. That was too small." The glass did not warm. Of course. Tavaro almost smiled. Rude city. He tried again. "I pulled." Still wrong. The Warden Mark tightened. He looked toward the central height, where 7 amber lights burned under stone. "I saw what we were doing," Tavaro said. "Not all of it. Enough." The glass warmed. "I did it anyway." The harbour accepted that. The words moved into the stone, and down through green vein, into oath glass seams, into the amber points beneath the basin. Not as song, not as law yet. As first scar, Tavaro lifted his hand. A faint print remained in the glassy seam of the harbour stone. Not the vile hand, not exactly. His own larger palm, rough and broken, crossed by a thin line where the skybone seam had bled. Beside it, Pyranth's hand left no print. The god saw. So did Tavaro. "That bothers you," Tavaro said. "Yes, good." Pyranth did not argue. The sun touched the horizon. A thin green line answered from beneath the harbour, running through the stone and up toward the central height. Amber glowed briefly in 7 points across the city, one after another, like eyes opening underground. The Deepwardens still held, bound, changed, unasked. Selukar breathed. That was the only word for it. The city drew in the last heat of day and released steam from every wet surface. Its channels murmured, its harbours darkened. Its glass held the red sky and did not give it back unchanged. Pyranth and Tavaro sat beside the empty harbour. Neither spoke for a while. Then Tavaro said, "You said mortals would remember this. They will." "As what?" Pyranth looked over Selukar, and the green in his antlers steadied. "As the beginning." Tavaro felt the city hear it. Oathglass took the sentence. Green vein carried it. Deepwarden amber held it under stone. Beginning, beginning, beginning. The word moved through the newborn city until Tavaro could almost believe it was not also an ending. He looked at his torn wrist. The new Warden Mark, the old skybone seam, the blood dried under his nails. Beginning of what? He asked. Pyranth's answer came soft, certain, and far too full of love. Everything they were denied. Tavaro stared at the darkening harbour. The child Mark burned once. Not warning, not approval. A reminder. Beauty was not enough. Neither was memory. Neither was a city. Still, below the red stone, the 7 held. Out west, some of the farbound still lived. And Tavaro, who had no place left to stand without hurting someone, sat at the edge of a harbour no one had asked him to raise, and did the only thing his hands could bear. He kept them open.
Redstone rise. Black sea breaks. Green runs under newborn streets. Amber holds what beauty takes. Beauty was not enough when the city struck his mouth. Stone came roaring from the deep and shoved the water out. Tavaro held the skybone line with blood in both his hands. Selukar mistook his arm for hinge to lift the land. Red cliffs tore the sea apart, glass flashed under foam. Warm stone formed beneath his knees, and still it was not home. Selukar raised from wound and wood and flame. No song can make it clean. No praise can change the name. Selukar raised where seven still remain. Green vein under red stone, amber under pain. Pyranth stood upon the sea with antlers burning high. His cloak was torn, his side was bright with sparks that would not die. He watched the city find its shape with reverence and hunger. Tavaro saw the old god's love and trusted him no younger. No single gate, the god voice said, no reef to close the shore. Tavaro laughed through broken ribs, it will find other doors. Selukar raised from wound and war and flame. No song can make it clean. No praise can change the name. Selukar raised where seven still remain. Green vein under red stone, amber under pain. Sonara lives, Lapo lives, Revel lives in stone. Maru curses somewhere east, keeping broken hulls in form. Too many lost, too many gone, do not count without the names. A city is no answer if it feeds upon the same. They climbed to the heart basin where oathglass held the deep. The old wound pulsed below the floor and did not go to sleep. The glass remembered Orin, blood beside the wall. The guideboat gone in Vadruk's mouth, the wardens as they fell. No one uses that, he said, no one shown for display. Memory without mercy is another mouth that prays. Selukar raised from wound and wood and flame. No song can make it clean. No praise can change the name. Selukar raised where seven still remain. Green vein under red stone, amber under pain. He pulled the anchor from the glass and screamed into the stone. The line came home through open flesh with amber dust and bone. Seven coils burned round his arm, cold beneath the skin. The Warden Mark woke quietly, like doors held deep within. No trophy, said the green god low upon the badly named. Tavaro said that word today has done poor work with shame. Start with the wound, start with the wrong. Do not make it proud. set his open hand beside the god on stone. The glass took only mortal blood and left Pyranth alone. I saw what we were doing, not all of it enough. I did it anyway, and the city held it rough. Beginning whispered green and glass, beginning amber burned. Everything they were denied still waits to be earned. Redstone breeze just grows cold. Beauty is not enough, so keep the first wound.